Fantastic. Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, the 23rd of March. My name is Kyle, and this is the AI with Kyle show. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today because there's not that much news in the world of artificial intelligence. We're going to be looking instead at the Vibe Coders Toolkit. So I've been talking for the last couple of weeks about vibe coding, showing you how to get started with vibe coding. Last Friday, we looked at AI Studio build mode from Google, which the moment after I covered, they actually updated and made it even better, which is fantastic. But what I want to show you today is how you go from vibe coding your basic idea into a proof of concept, and then from there actually deploy it as an application. So I'm going to be talking about the other steps, the other tools, the other services that you're going to be using. And I'm going to be showing you my full stack. So a stack is basically a set of tools that you use to build and deploy applications. So I will show you what I use. I'll show you some variants as well. And I'm also going to be talking about the pricing. I'll show you a stack of tools that you can use to get started basically for free. Not 100% free. It will be about $10, which is pretty small to start a company, to buy yourself a domain name, but the rest of it is all free. So I'm going to be showing you how you do all of that. So let's hop in. This is the Vibe Coders Toolkit. Every tool you need to go from idea to live product. If you have been following social media, if you've been following anything about vibe coding, you're probably quite rightly a bit overwhelmed by the amount of options out there. So I've just pulled a few up on the screen right now. So we have Supabase, Firebase, Vercel, Railway, Netlify, Stripe, Lemon Squeezy, Mixpanel, PostHog, GitHub, GoDaddy, don't use GoDaddy, SendGrid, Resend, etc., etc. A huge number of brands and companies. And if you're new to vibe coding, if you're new to creating software for the first time, all of this is noise. And it's very difficult to tell what you need, what is used for what kind of function, and which ones are actually core to creating and which ones are just kind of hype. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through this ecosystem, show where they all slot in and which ones you should go with. These are going to be personal recommendations. I'm sure there'll be people in comments tell me how wrong I am. We're just going to keep it simple for now. So the idea is to break it down to a small number of tools. All of them are going to be free to get started with. Some of them are free forever. And it's going to allow you to build your idea into something that you can actually scale and you can actually make money with. So these are the tools we're going to cover. You might recognize a few of them. AI has been a bit creative with this one, but we have GitHub, Supabase, Vercel, Namecheap, Stripe, ThriveCart, Resend, Beehive. That is not their logo. Sorry, Beehive. You guys are great. PostHog, Google Analytics, and Cloudflare. Still quite a lot of tools, but I'm going to be walking you through how we use them and in which order as well. So I'm hoping this would be quite useful because this is stuff I had to work out myself and it was extremely confusing. Now, quick caveat. I'm going to be talking about how you build a web app. So specifically something that you open in your browser. This can be the basis of a mobile app, something that is on iPhone or Android later. But that's an additional step and it has additional tools. I'm not going to be talking about them today, maybe some other day. So I'm going to be talking about web apps specifically. Cool. Right, let's get started. First of all, you need to be able to create your idea. I've covered this in detail in other presentations. There are a couple of ways you can start. You can get started with, let me pull them up. Let me put it up and drop it immediately. Lovable. Lovable is a great little tool. It is not free. You can get started for free, but when you want to deploy, when you actually want to allow people to use your tool, you're going to have to pay. And I think it starts around $20, $25 a month. So Lovable is fantastic. It's a really good starter tool, but it will have a small cost to it. The other one, and I did a whole presentation on Friday about this, is Google AI Studio Build. So this is not Google AI Studio, but this is the build mode inside of Google AI Studio. It's confusing. So if you go to Google AI Studio, ignore all of this stuff on the front end and instead click here on build. And this takes you into this interface, which looks like ChatGPT. It also looks a lot like Lovable, so you can build your application in here. Literally, you would say, I want to build an app to help me gosh, I don't know, respond to business contacts in a timely manner. This is something I'm terrible at. So maybe an app where I have all their images. Every time somebody contacts me with a request for, working together, maybe there's a little timer and it says how long it's been until since I've got that contact and whether or not I've contacted them. I would literally just type in the idea that I have and press build. That's it. So very, very simple to use. So these are the two options I suggest starting with. Either Lovable, if you have a bit of cash, because it's nice and simple, be about $20 a month, or AI Studio build mode if you want to do this totally for free. Absolutely use that. If you are a bit more technically advanced and you are okay with a learning curve, then use Claude Code. Claude Code is basically the best tool out there for vibe coding or agentic engineering, or use ChatGPT's Codex. Both of these are available now in app version. So there's a Codex app, which I highly recommend. And is it still? I swear it's on Windows now. But this application is very good from ChatGPT or Claude Code. And again, there is an app version of Claude Code. So Anthropic Claude Code app, and you can download the desktop version of Claude Code. These are going to be the easiest ways to get started. It will sit on your computer. You can also do these through the command line interface or development environment. Because we're talking about getting started, I'm not going to cover them now. So these are your options, all good for different things. They're all very useful tools. I would not stress, especially when you were starting out, do not stress this choice. You will probably use them all eventually. Just get started. So if you need to get started somewhere for free, AI Studio build mode. Cool. We'll get to Claude Code later. We'll get to Codex later. No problem. Okay, so you start there, you build. Now you've built something. I've talked in great detail about how you actually do this and the processes on AI with Kyle. You can find free courses here like this 10-week how to build a business using AI course. Week 4 and 5 are really about vibe coding, about building stuff, and there's a whole bunch of different free courses in here too inside of the catalog. So I'm not going to go into detail about vibe coding today. What we want to talk about is what happens after you've built something. So you've built something that you think people might want to buy. What the hell now? What do you do? This is the big next step. So we are going to cover the rest of the stack. We're going to work through each of the tools that you're going to be using, which allows you to go from basically a proof of concept, a minimum viability product, to something you can actually get into people's hands and charge them money for. Cool. Let's get started. That was very bizarre. I gave a thumbs up to camera, and exactly the same moment on YouTube, somebody gave a thumbs up. And I just had the most dissociating effect from that because it looked like I triggered the thumbs up. Very, very cool. What do you think about building app prompts in Claude Desktop and put in prompt into Claude Code? Yep, works perfectly. Absolutely. Do all your planning in Claude or all your planning in ChatGPT, and then take your project plan over to Claude Code. In fact, I'm going to give you at the end of this, I'm going to give you a prompt which you will first put into Claude or into ChatGPT, and it's going to give you a project plan for how to deploy an application. You take that project plan, you put it into Lovable, you put it into build mode, or you put it into Claude Code, and it will help you work through step by step by step. So 100% do your planning outside of the vibe coding tools, and then bring it into the vibe coding tool when you're ready to implement. So let's go. GitHub. GitHub is, this is what it looks like. Basically, I'm oversimplifying here, but is basically cloud storage for your project. What's really important about GitHub though, is that it allows you to connect to the various different services. So as I said, we're going to be covering these different services here. Lots of these will want to connect to your code. They'll want to connect to what it is you've built. For them to do that, you need to have it in a central place, which is not on your computer, but is somewhere in the cloud where it can be accessed by these various different pieces of software. We're going to use GitHub to do that. So GitHub is free. It looks like this. I would create an account for free and then click this, create a new repository, give it a name. This is my test repo. Repo is just short for repository, basically a folder that has your files in it. I would create a description. I can choose visibility, so I can make it public, but then anyone can see it, or I can make it private, which is just for me. If I'm connecting it up to these other tools, I will make it private, generally. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And then I'll click create repository, and that's going to create a little folder for me. I will go ahead and do this. That looks like this. There is nothing in it right now, but this will be where everything is stored. And I will connect this to Lovable. I will connect this to build mode. I will connect this to Claude Code. Whatever tool I'm using will be connected into GitHub, and it will save all of my information there. So we start here with GitHub. You might have already connected GitHub while you were building your piece of software. If so, fantastic, you've already done this. So it becomes the central folder where all of your files are kept, and that's going to allow other tools to connect to it. That's cool. It is also used for something called version control. So as we start to build, let's say you're adding a new feature to your application, what you want to do is you don't necessarily want to build on your live app, because you might have paying customers, people who are inside of your app, trying to use it during the day. And if you are in there tinkering around with the code, messing around with it, and you break something, which you probably will, that's going to bring the app down for everybody. So we do something called branching, where this is a bit of a visual representation. You have a main branch, that is the one that is live generally, and then you will branch off it if you want to add a new feature, do all your tinkering around in that branch, and then you will merge that branch into your main, which will allow you to make sure everything is working, make sure it's not going to be a nightmare, then you pull it all together. So we use GitHub for that as well. Also, if you end up hiring other engineers or you have other people working on the project, GitHub allows them all to do that without screwing it up for each other. So use this. It is free, and it's the standard. I'm sure there are alternatives. For all of these, there will be alternatives. I'm going to ignore them for the most part. And I will let people argue in the comments, because I'm sure you will. Next up, Supabase. Supabase is basically your database. It's going to be sitting behind your application, and it's going to allow you to keep both your content. So let's say you have lots of blog articles, the actual text of that is going to be sitting in your database. It's also going to allow you to have tables of users. So as you start to get people coming to your application and signing up, they're going to be giving you their email address. They're going to be creating passwords. They're going to be signing in using Google, for example. You need a secure place to keep all of those details. It cannot just be a little Excel sheet in the back of your website. You need to have it somewhere secure. And this is one of the big risks in vibe coding, is that people, they will talk to their vibe coding tool and they'll say, hey, and they need to be able to sign up. So allow them to make usernames and passwords. And the older versions of the vibe coding tools would allow you to do that in the back end of your own website. Really, really risky. Nowadays, if you use something like Lovable or something like AI Studio, it's going to say, yeah, we need to set up a back end here. And this one, Google AI Studio, will say you should use Firebase, because Firebase is owned by Google. But generally, you'll be pointed in the direction of a company called Supabase, Supabase, Supabase. Now, again, Supabase to start is free until you have 50,000 monthly active users, or you have a certain amount of data moving back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. So 500 megabytes data size, etc., etc. And then after that, it goes to $25 a month. For most projects, especially if you don't have paying customers, if you don't have a huge amount of traffic, you're going to be absolutely fine on the free plan. This is going to be the same for all of the tools I'm going to show you. They are free until you get to a certain size, at which point you will be paying maybe $20 a month. However, they all have generous enough limits so that by the time you get to that point where you have to pay, you should be making money from your project. You should be, in the case of Supabase, at these kind of numbers. So you've got thousands of people coming to your website. And if you're not making any money by that point, if you can't afford $20 a month, you have bigger problems. You need to reassess the project as a business. Okay, so that's the next one, Supabase. So with Supabase, it seems quite complicated initially, but remember, you can always just ask your vibe coding tool to set things up for you. You can say to it, hey, I want to set up a database where people can securely create accounts. On their accounts, we can have permissions for what they're allowed to see, like based on what they've purchased. They can have entitlements. And I want this all to be secure. I want them to be able to log in using Google, etc., etc. You can talk to your vibe coding tool and it will walk you through step by step how to do this. So while coming into Supabase for the first time, I won't bring up my dashboard because it has details I can't share in there. Whilst it looks very intimidating initially, remember the vibe coding tool. Claude Code, Lovable, whatever it is you're using can walk you through step by step how to get this set up. First time you set it up, confusing. Second time, easy. Third time, natural. This is one of the great things about Lovable though. Lovable will do this stuff automatically for you. So it will set up hosting and it will set up a backend. They use something called Lovable Cloud, which is based on Supabase. So it is a good reason to use them. But again, you are paying for that. Next up, something called deployment. So initially, when you build something, it's sitting in your vibe coding tool or it's sitting on your computer. You might have a little folder on your computer and you can run it in something called localhost, which basically replicates building it and deploying it on a website. But other people can't see that. They're not going to come to your computer. They're not going to connect to your computer to see the files. We definitely don't want that. So we need to deploy it. So this is like hosting, we're getting it onto a website. How you do this kind of depends a bit on what you've built. If it is a very basic website, you could just use a web host like Namecheap or GoDaddy. Don't use GoDaddy, they're terrible. Or one of those kind of older school legacy. If you have built a web app, so something that's a bit more interactive, you're probably going to need a more sophisticated host. So the one that I personally use is Vercel. There is also Netlify. People love Netlify. I don't use it, but I'm sure it's very good. There's a whole different bunch of ways to do this. Fairly commoditized. I personally use Vercel. So Vercel, again, is going to be free initially, and then $20 a month for additional usage. So this will be depending on, again, how many people are coming to your website, how busy it is. I'm on $20 a month and I'll get thousands or tens of thousands of visitors a month, and it's fine. And then beyond that, you would be paying for usage. But once again, you only start paying once your project's quite successful, and you should be making money by that point. So I use Vercel. There are lots of different ways to do it. Vercel will connect directly to GitHub. So what happens is you will push your work from Lovable or Claude Code or Codex or whatever your coding tool is. It will get pushed to GitHub, which is the first tool here. And then Vercel will be watching your GitHub for changes. And when a change is made, Vercel can build that new version of the application inside of your Vercel setup. Vercel is also connected to your Supabase, and everything basically is pulled together. But this is the order in which I would build it. So GitHub first, get that sorted out, and then connect to Supabase and Vercel. Again, Lovable does all of this for you. You don't really have to think about it as much. That's what you're paying for. But if you want to save and do this for free using AI Studio Build or some other tool, these are the tools that you're going to be adding on as you go forward. So I use Vercel. You can use other ones. Doesn't really matter. Once you have deployed though, so your files are now sitting and built on a site like Vercel. I think I can show you a little bit what that looks like. Yeah, I can. So I have my deployments here. I've got a couple of failed deployments, but these are my various deployments over time. So every time I make a change or a substantial change, the deployments will be pushed here. And you can see all the analytics, etc., etc. But this is the one that is currently being served up to my visitors at the moment. This exists on a couple of ways to do this. Well, one, this exists on aiwithkyle.com. This is like the live version of that. But for this to happen, I need to own this. It's called a domain. Oh, you can't see it on screen. But I own the domain aiwithkyle.com. That's something you have to buy, and you need to connect to Vercel. Now, you can buy them on Vercel. I personally buy my domains on Namecheap, just because I've been doing that for years. So you can come to namecheap.com and you can type in, let's see, vibe coding with Kyle. I should probably buy that if I'm going to get it, huh? Before somebody snipes it. There we go. So that is £7 a year to get vibe coding with Kyle. I'm going to buy that before someone stream snipes me. Actually, can't be bothered to do this on live on stream. Can't be bothered. It's not that good a domain anyway. It's too long. But you're going to buy a domain name like AI with Kyle, like Amazon.com, like whatever it is you want to buy, and then you're going to connect that into into Vercel. If you don't do that, you will be on a URL like this. So it would be aiwithkyle.vercel.app. Not very good. You want it to be yourthing.com like this. Now you do need to pay for this. You will need to buy your domain names. I own far too many domain names, unfortunately. And they generally cost around £10 per year, and that is just a cost you need to pay. The risk here is that you buy domain names for absolutely everything. As you saw, I have a compulsion that I just want to buy new domain names. If you do that, you might end up spending hundreds of pounds a year on these and not building them. So try to resist that. But this is basically the one thing that you will need to buy, is you're going to have to buy that domain name. If you can get .com, they're just taken more seriously and they're better for SEO. Whether or not that's important anymore is up for debate, but if you can, .com is always going to be the best one. So you're going to buy your domain and you're going to connect it to Vercel. Pretty easy to do. In Vercel, there will be a domains part, and then you will be able to buy it either here in Vercel. If you do that, it will sort everything out, or you can add existing, which is, I'll show you what that looks like. So testwebsite.com. It's going to ask you to set various records. So you'd have to go into where you purchased it. So Namecheap, for example, and copy in this value into the DNS configuration. Again, this is stuff that you can ask ChatGPT, or you can ask Claude how to do it, and it will walk you through. And that will tell Vercel that you own that domain, and it will connect your web app to that domain. So that's the next step. So this is the first one where you do have to pay. Everything before, Vercel, Supabase, GitHub, totally free until you reach a certain usage. So you're good to go. Okay, next, because we're going through my whole stack here. Next is, how do you get paid? You need to set up something like Stripe. Now there are other ways to do this. There's Paddle, there's Lemon Squeezy, there is Braintree. You can technically do it through eBay, but it looks a bit scammy. So Stripe would be my recommendation. Now Stripe charge about 3% of every transaction. So if your product is $100, Stripe are going to immediately take $3. A bit annoying, but it's a cost of doing business, and they take a small amount per transaction. These fees will differ depending on where you are. This is what they are for me. Also, if you get to a large amount, you can actually talk to Stripe and renegotiate your fees. But Stripe are the default. There are alternatives. There are lots of people who don't like Stripe, but they are the default. You're kind of stuck with them for the most part. So most people will just be using Stripe. Now, you can, for Stripe, and you've probably seen this, you can buy directly through Stripe, and you'll get a little Stripe button. You can click on it and you can go through the Stripe interfaces. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. But what you might want to do is have something a bit more sophisticated if you're doing any degree of complicated sales. Then you want a cart system in place. So I use ThriveCart personally. So ThriveCart is, let's see the pricing. It is, yeah, it's about $500, but that is one off. So you don't need to pay again, which is a very small amount when it comes to doing a business. ThriveCart allows me to do a whole bunch of other things. So for example, order bumps, crypto payments, tax inclusive. It will work out your taxes for you, so you don't have to faff around with that. Recurring subscriptions. So if you want to put people on a subscription, you can do it with Stripe, but it's fiddly. And then upgrades and downgrades on subscriptions, so people can bump their subscriptions back and forward. Again, you can kind of do all of this stuff on Stripe, but it's incredibly complex. really complicated. Affiliate sales, so people can refer people to you and get paid. Referral sales, invoice download, sales funnels, coupons, so you can create coupons using ThriveCart. Revenue projection, blah 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 blah. Like a huge amount of things that you can do using something like ThriveCart. Installment payment, I forgot about that. So you can have people pay through Klarna or whatever, etc., etc. So I recommend using something like this. There is a fee to it. Otherwise, you can just use Stripe, kind of a naked Stripe, but there's going to be a lot more technical setup, and it also doesn't look as good. So personally, I use ThriveCart, and you can also set it up once you buy it once for $500 or so. You can set it up for all of your businesses. Pretty cool. So tax automation, one-click down sales, A/B testing, post-purchase offers, all of this good stuff. Really, 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 really cool. So that is an option for you. You don't need to use that, but let me get rid of that. But that is something I do recommend. So Stripe is the actual payment processor, and ThriveCart provides the cart and the e-commerce functionality. So you definitely need Stripe, which is free, but then you pay for each transaction, and optionally you use something like ThriveCart on top in order to get more functionality. Okay. Next, emails. Emails is something that a lot of people underestimate the complexity of, because we're used to just sending emails via Gmail. That's fine, but when you are sending, like I do, 60,000 emails a day or so, that you run into limitations. Obviously, you cannot send all of those emails through Gmail. You would be so quickly banned that is just not on the table. So you need systems. There is a split between the type of emails that you send. There are transaction emails. Transaction emails are dealt with legally very differently. So transaction emails are things that must get sent through. So let's say somebody purchases from me. Let's see if I have a purchase. Oh, yep. Two people have purchased during this live. One for $7, one for $49. So those sales, as soon as that person purchases something, we need to send them an email saying, hey, here is your purchase, here's your invoice, here's how you get access. That's a transactional email. So that happens upon a purchase, or sometimes if somebody signs up for a lead magnet, for example, they come to your website, they sign up, boom, we send them an email. So they are triggered based on customer actions. I use something called Resend to do this. I cannot pull it up because it has email details, but Resend will connect into your application. Again, you're going to talk to Claude Code, you're going to talk to Lovable, and you're going to say, this is what I'm using. And it will connect up, and that will be able to send out your transactional emails for you. You can also connect it to ThriveCart, Stripe, etc., etc., etc. But you ask the vibe coding tool to help you with this, and then you test. You test a lot. Also, password resets, invoices, receipts. It's the stuff that you must send in order to keep your business going. So that's one way of doing it. The other system I use is for marketing emails. It's for my content and marketing emails. So this falls under a different bucket. I would not use Resend for this, but instead I use Beehive. So in Beehive, I have about 45,000 subscribers. You can start for free with Beehive up to 2,500 subscribers, but once you get to a certain amount, it will cost you money. There's not really a way around that. You could use Substack. Yeah, you could use Substack, and then you're not going to be paying. But Beehive has additional platform features in it, like boosts, referral programs, etc., that kind of make it worthwhile if you are running a business. If you just want a newsletter to send people information via newsletter, then sure, use Substack. If you want to build a business, Beehive's going to be the one. So as you can see, with 45... pushing on 50,000, so 50,000 subscribers, I'll be paying about $300 a month for that, or $4,000 annually. When you're running a business, that's fine. That's a very small amount. But if you are getting started, obviously that is very scary sounding, but $0 per month for up to 2,500 subscribers, that would get you going. And then the first price is going to be, oh gosh, well, it's going to be $60 a month. But by that point, you should be generating some money if you're running this as a business. So I use Beehive for my marketing and my content emails, and I use Resend for my transactional emails. So they're split into two different systems. And then with these, you need to basically validate your domain so that both these services know that you are allowed to send from that domain. And that comes back to Namecheap, which we talked about. You need to put some more records that both Resend and Beehive will give you. You will take that information, you'll put that into your Namecheap, and it will allow Resend and Beehive to know, okay, this is valid, we are allowed to send from this email. Again, talk to ChatGPT, it will walk you through. So with these tools, they have onboarding processes. And again, with all these things, the first time you do it, it's going to be complex and it's going to be fiddly, and messing around with DNS records is one of my least favorite things. But once you've done it the first time and it works, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, it'll be a lot easier. This is why starting lots and lots of businesses makes your chance of success high each time, because you've done all this stuff. You've set this kind of thing up before. Okay, and then final part of my stack, PostHog. So PostHog I use for analytics. Again, it is free. I also use Google Analytics. I hate Google Analytics, most people do, but it allows me to get additional information. PostHog and Google Analytics are analytics packages. So when people land on my websites or they use my products, I can see what is happening. I can see where they're coming from. I can see how far they get down my sales funnels. I can see how they're using products, where they stop using products, for example, etc. I get all of that information, which allows me to make better business decisions. I can also see things like, oh, I spent $200 behind boosting a Facebook post. How many sales did that get me? I can look at that and I can be like, okay, I spent $200, but I made $1,000. Great, do more of that. If you don't have these analytics set up in the background, there's no way for you to make those decisions. You're basically guessing. So PostHog in particular allows you to set up, let me see if I can pull it up without any problems here. Yeah, PostHog allows me to do things like experiments. So I can run experiments on, there we go. This is one that we can show on what kind of wording on a landing page is the best. So I can see here that the best one here is optimistic peers. It converts 24% of people who land on the page, which is a difference of 57% compared to the control. So that tells me, okay, this wording that I've used here, really good. Do more of this. So this is actually a test I need to switch off and get rid of my control, which is the one I started with, and stick with optimistic peers because it does so much better than everything else. Which is also cool because this is for my WhatsApp. I have a private WhatsApp group. The reason people are joining, this tells me, is that they want to hang out with other people who are building stuff, and other people who are optimistic about the future of AI and what they can do with it, which is what the group is. So that's fantastic. So PostHog allows me to get that kind of information and to make changes. So that's on my website. That would be on any apps, any products that I build. I can get all of that information using PostHog. You can also use Google Analytics. Both are free. I have both in firing, and my Google Analytics pushes into my PostHog. So information from Google goes into PostHog. But PostHog is like the more powerful tool because I can actually get insights from it. Importantly, PostHog have just in the last year or so, couple of years, they've added AI as well. So previously you had to know how to interrogate the data or hire a data scientist who could go through the data and tell you what experiments you should be running, what information you should be looking for. Now you can go to PostHog and you can talk to it and say, hey, based on all the information you have, what are the most effective channels for acquisition, customer acquisition? And it's able to look through all your data and answer those questions for you. Really cool. Really, really cool. So I highly recommend that. And that is free, as are all of these tools. So this is my stack. This is my stack. There are many stacks like this, but this one is mine. And Other people will use different things, but I just wanted to give you an idea of where you can start, and then you can go from here and you can change things around. So if you already use, Netlify and you think Vercel sucks, that's fine. Absolutely fine. I'm not going to die on any of these hills. However, for people who have no idea how to build out any of this, hopefully this is a useful stack. So I start with idea and my code, and I'm either going to be using Lovable. I'll use Google AI Studio build mode. Good God, Google, you need to change that name, which is free. Or I use Claude Code, or I use Codex. Lots of different options. Doesn't really matter. Just get started. I then need to be able to save and store all of my code, all of my data, all of my users in a nice safe place. So I use GitHub for storing the code and allowing other tools to connect to it. And I use Supabase for storing my content and my users securely. Must be secure. I then host this. So the code I'm hosting and the backend database, I'm hosting it on Vercel. And I will buy the domain from Namecheap. You can also buy the domain from Vercel. Doesn't really matter as long as it's connected to your host. And then if you want to make money, you're going to set up Stripe, which is going to allow you to take payment. Don't try and build this yourself. I've seen people try to do this. Do not do that. You need a banking license. You need so many other things. Just pay Stripe their 3%. Good God. And then optionally, you can use something like ThriveCart, which is about $500. This is optional though, which will allow you to have a more sophisticated checkout system. Then for emails, we're going to use Resend for transactional emails and Beehive for marketing and content emails. And then for knowing what's actually generating us money, what's actually working in our business, we're going to use PostHog and Google Analytics in the back end. All of this is free to start with. Or if you're using Lovable, $20 a month. Yep, that's it. Otherwise, it is all free. So money is not a block to starting this. You only start paying for these tools once you're at thousands of users. So you start paying for Beehive at 2,500 users. Resend, I don't think I've ever paid for. PostHog, never paid for. ThriveCart is an optional payment if you just want to tighten up your funnel, but it's £500, so you should be able to make that back very, very quickly. Vercel I do pay for, $20 a month. Supabase I pay for, $20 a month. GitHub I do not pay for. So even though I'm paying for these and I'm running a business that is generating solid six-figure revenue a year, my costs per month for my tech stack are maybe $100, $200 maybe. Not very much compared to the tens of thousands that we make every month. So this is a great time to build. Cost is not a factor now, nor is technical ability, because you can just get started. You can just start building stuff. And if you have a good idea, get a basic version of it built. So the presentation I did on Friday was about doing this with build mode in Google AI Studio. Totally free, just get started. All the barriers have been removed. For years, people were like, oh, I've got an app idea, or I'm going to make $1 million with my app. I don't know how to do the technical stuff. Or I need money to host all of this and to build all of this. No, those excuses are gone. You can now just do this. Here's the stack. What you can do though, obviously this video will be on YouTube. It will be tidied up. It will also be in the newsletter tomorrow, aiwithkyle.com. There will be a written up version of this, and I'll create a PDF guide too. But we have AI. So use a prompt like this. I want to build. Describe your app. What do you want to build? Create a step-by-step project plan using this stack: Lovable or Core Code, Claude Code for building, GitHub for version control, Supabase for database and auth, Vercel for deployment, Namecheap for domain, Stripe for payments, Resend for transactional emails, PostHog for analytics. Break it into phases. Tell me what to set up first and flag any decisions I need to make along the way. Put that into Claude. Put that into ChatGPT. Tell it what you want to build, and it will give you a big, long, structured plan, step by step by step by step. If it says something like, okay, grab the text record from Vercel and add it to your DNS configuration in Namecheap. If you don't know what that means, ask. Ask the AI. Just say, I have no idea what DNS is. I have no idea what you're talking about. Please help me. And it will walk you through how to do everything. So use a prompt like this to get started. Once you have built a stack like this the first time, it becomes a lot easier. I won't underplay that the first time will be complicated, and it will probably take you a week. That's fine. Now, when I launch a new app or new product, I can get this set up in 2 hours, probably less than, and that's including making sales pages, because we can now move so fast. But the first time you do it, it's going to take you a week. But that's probably the best week you've ever spent on anything, because it's going to be giving you such a powerful skill for building in the future. Awesome. So this will be in the newsletter tomorrow, and there'll be a tidied up version in YouTube as well. I will also produce a PDF kind of checklist walking you through this. I say me, Claude will produce you a PDF checklist walking you through this. But it will all be available in Tuesday's newsletter, which is available free at aiwithkyle.com. Thank you so much, and I hope this was useful. If it is, tell me in the comments below the video, and I'm going to now switch over to questions. Cheers, guys. Right. Young Ad says, love the content. Do you ever thought about podcast format and uploading Spotify? I think it is. I think it might be on Spotify. Yeah, it is on Spotify. This is one of those set up systems and then step away. I don't know if it's got video though. No, that's just me talking. I wonder if I can put video on Spotify, because I haven't tried to do that. But there is a podcast, because apparently some people wanted to listen, which is fine. I don't know why you'd want to listen to me for an hour without seeing anything. I don't know why you'd want to listen or see anything, but that's just me. I'm biased against myself. Thank you, 138 Phoenix. Lovable versus Claude, OneSolve AI says. Depends entirely how comfortable you are with vibe coding. So if you have never vibe coded or created any piece of software before, Lovable. Much simpler. If you have never vibe coded before, you've never created anything, but you don't have a budget, AI Studio Build Mode from Google, the one that looks like this. Just get started. I did a presentation on that last week. It was last Friday. You can find that on the website and on YouTube as well. If you are more technical and you're comfortable with learning a new technology, then I would go with Claude Code and Codex from ChatGPT. Now, both of them are, as of a few weeks ago, available in apps, which is great. That reduces the technical level. So we go, Codex. Oh, this is the Codex web version. There we go. Download for macOS. So you can download the application versions as well, which is a bit easier than using them on a command line interface. But still, I would still start with something like Lovable or AI Build Studio for your first ever project, and then you can learn Codex and Claude Code later. Claude Code is probably the best, but that doesn't mean it's the best place to start, because it is more heavy duty. It's also not cheap. If you actually want to use Claude Code to actually build daily, you're going to be paying $100, $200 a month, which is not open to everybody. Weird question. What if I want to build something that people can use for free and that won't bankrupt me? Yeah, no, it's not a weird question at all. It's a great question. So you see this a lot with kind of open source projects and charity or non-profit projects, where they will basically have to ask for donations. So if lots of people are accessing your site, there are going to be costs. There's going to be hosting costs. You can keep those costs relatively low, but there will be a cost. So you can either get donations. So there's things like what is it? Coffee tip me a coffee, buy me a coffee. So you can add stuff like that. So people can just throw you $20 or whatever. Or sometimes, I don't know about Vercel in particular, but sometimes these companies do provide like non-profit or charitable pricing. So talk to them, say, hey, this is a project I'm building. It's doing really well. We've got 50,000 people a month coming to the website. It's really hard for me to keep it going because of the cost. It's just something that you could support. So a lot of these have non-profit pricing. Same with the AI companies too. So non-profit and charitable pricing. You have to jump through some hoops to get that, but there is money available. So those would be the main ways to do it. There are things you can do like something like GitHub Pages. So you can directly host or directly deploy your website from GitHub using GitHub Pages. So turns any GitHub repo into a live website, no separate hosting required. Really cool. So you don't need Vercel at that point, but you can only do it on on free accounts on GitHub. You can only do this with public repos. So you'd have to expose your code base. You'd have to make it public. Whether or not that's a problem, it depends on what the project is. Or again, this comes back to money. You can pay GitHub and host on GitHub Pages using a private repo. Doesn't really solve the problem, but that's another option. But I would say that it's only an issue once you get to a certain size. All of these tools that we went through, you can use. They have generous free plans, so you don't really need to worry until you have thousands and thousands of people coming. At that point, it's a good problem to have. It's oh shit, this is going to cost me $20 a month. How do I recoup that $20? And maybe you have somebody who can just throw you $100, and they will do so using the tip me a coffee or whatever it is. So that's a way to do it. But it's a great question, not a stupid question at all. And it probably won't bankrupt you, Sally and Ben, because these things are not that expensive. They'll probably be $20 a month, most of the plans. Morning, Lyra. I hooked up Claude to Telegram and now can code from anywhere. Love it. Is that using, I have to get this right. This is channels. So last week, Claude released, or in the last 2 weeks, they've released remote control for Claude Code. They've released dispatch for Claude Cowork, and now they've released channels, which allows you to connect to Telegram and Discord and Slack and stuff like that. All different ways to remotely control your sessions on your computer. But there's three different functions, all going to different places, all with kind of similar names. It's, yeah, a bit confusing. Claude at the moment, or the Claude team, are shipping so much. Every single week there's a couple of new features, but I think they're starting to fall over their own feet a bit, because one person's working on channels, one is working on dispatch, one is working on remote control, and they're releasing them like a few days apart, and then that's causing a lot of confusion as well. What are your thoughts on migrated from SQLite to it last night? I don't have any thoughts on that. I'm sure it is absolutely fine, but I don't know enough about that to be able to. I don't know what your project is to be able to comment on that. Sally and Ben, thank you. I make apps for my students. So see if there's a way, even if you're giving it away for free, see if you can ask the students for donations. If it's something that's genuinely useful for them, and they'd probably be okay kicking you $10 a month or something. Not $10 a month, $10 a year. You could also set up a Patreon. What's the other one? Ko-Fi. Yeah, here we go. Ko-Fi or Coffee. Just a way for them to pay you as thank you, rather than it being a transaction that you're going to enter with them. I would have a look at that. If you're helping them, then I wouldn't be that surprised if they would kick you a little bit of cash just to keep the doors open. Lyra says, I was out at dinner debugging my app. Yeah, this is a real risk. The fact that we can now access Claude Code, Claude Cowork, etc. from anywhere, if you have a little phone, means that switching off is basically impossible. Especially if you have notifications on, like, oh, I finished that task. There's a dopamine hit to going back to it and be like, okay, here's the next thing you're going to do. And previously, for me at least, being able to walk away from my computer at least allowed me to break away and not think about the project. But now, because it's all accessible via the phone, we can connect back to our main terminal. That's gone. So I feel I need to be productive all of the time. If I were to utilize and then realize the expense of the subscription on various accounts, is it worth it? What do you mean specifically? So all of these are free initially. You will only start paying once you have enough customers, enough visitors. So once you have enough people running through your system, and then you'll probably be paying $10, $20 a month for some of these tools. At that point though, if you have 1,000 people who are using your application, you should be able to make money from that. You should certainly be able to make more than $20 a month. So I would say don't let the future costs of these get in the way of making money. I know there will be a cost to using these later, but it's, as I said, I'm making, God, I don't know, 40, 50,000 pounds a month, and the tech tools to do that are costing me $100 a month. Like, there's just such a gap that I've never seen such a huge arbitrage opportunity. The ability to make good money, very good money, using these tools to create content, to create product, to create websites, to create distribution, make sales, but your costs are your time and a couple of $100 a month in AI tools. That's it. That is absolutely it. So yes, I know it's natural to worry about these costs, but you have to think about the revenues you can generate as well, which are huge compared to these costs. Jeff says, I love this. Thanks for the daily video. Thank you, Jeff. I'm epileptic and spend a chunk of my income in order to access AI, but it's something I want and need to learn, as building and taking part of the AI community is vital. Gaining skills will pay off. Yeah, it's an important technology. I know there's a lot of debate about what impact it's going to have and if it's overhyped, and I just know that the people I interact with and work with on a daily basis who are grabbing this technology and running with it are doing very well. And the majority of the public out there haven't realized really what's happening. They certainly haven't realized you can just build stuff, that you can have an idea and you can go from that idea to something functional in an afternoon, whereas previously it would take months, it would take huge amounts of money to get that into a piece of software or website, whatever it is you want to build. You can now do it so fast. So I will often have an idea, over lunch, and I'll come back home and build it that afternoon, and then launch it. That's amazing. Like, it's really, really cool. So there's a lot of potential with this technology. Absolutely. So taking part in the AI community. If you're watching this live right now, this tells me that you're paying attention in a way that the vast majority of Earth are not. So you're in a good place. It might feel sometimes like you're falling behind, but that's because your social media algorithms are probably tweaked to people who are talking about the new hot thing. If you go on Twitter, you go on TikTok, people are always talking about, I forget what the new hotness is right now. It was OpenClaw recently. A lot of the time you can ignore that and you will be absolutely fine. They are just pushing whatever gets them the views, basically. So focus on what allows you to build value and create value and put it out into the world, and you can't go wrong. It's a really, really exciting time. I don't think it's overhyped enough. Yeah, the majority of the public still see it as a fancy search. Correct. So I often talk about the levels of AI, and level 1, as I put it, is basically using AI as a Google replacement. That's what the most people who have ChatGPT are using it for. They're using it to go and ask questions. The next step up from that is, how can I work with AI to ask better questions? Like, how can I use this to elevate the level of work I'm doing, to be more introspective, to think about what's actually important, because now I can get any information, I can synthesize it, I can create reports for anything, really good reports using Claude. But what am I actually going to do with that? How am I going to act on that? So kind of data and information has become pretty much free, and that makes it to a certain extent valueless. So it's about what we do, what we build, and with artificial intelligence. So that's the next part. And that's the exciting part as well. I've been an OpenClaw person for a while, but I'm going to try to transition to pure Claude Code. I love how you say a while. When did it come out? In December? Yeah, I think December. So OpenClaw is 4 months old, but in AI, that's like, That is that's years in AI time. 4 months. Like, oh, I've been used. I'm a veteran of OpenClaw. 4 months. I get what you mean though, because everything is moving so fast. So OpenClaw was first released in December, I think. It blew up in January. Cowork from Claude came out. When did that come out? Let's ask. I think in February. Oh no, January. January the 2nd, 2026, for Claude Max, and then Windows version on the February the 10th, etc. So everything is moving so fast. I saw somebody on Twitter complaining the other day, like, why Anthropic, why haven't you released any new models in ages? And a person from Claude, the Claude team, is like, we just released Opus 4.6 and Sonnet 4.6 like 3 weeks ago. What are you talking about? Like, our timelines are getting so compressed that we expect something new every single day, and it is absolutely overwhelming. Claude Cowork is good. Claude Cowork is, I called it, I got in trouble for this, I called it OpenClaw for adults, and people are like, oh, fuck you. But I kind of stand by it. It's a less powerful version of OpenClaw. OpenClaw, you can do mad things with it. Cowork is a lot more restrained, so you can do less with it. But the stuff you can do with it tends to be the really valuable work stuff. It's productivity, it's professional stuff, and it's much more secure than OpenClaw. I love OpenClaw. I think it's fantastic. It is the first AI technology that I specifically went on my lives and in my videos and said, if you are not comfortable with the technology, if you're worried about security risks, don't touch it. Just stay away from this for now. I know there's a huge FOMO. I know you probably want to jump in and use this stuff. Just leave it. You're not going to use this one, which I feel okay with, because back then I said, look, the big labs, Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, they will create their own version of this, and their own version will be more secure. Yes, it's going to be less powerful, but it's going to be something that you can use without it, potentially deleting your email inbox or going wild with your credit card. So whilst I love the technology, Cowork does feel like a more kind of mature, more stable version of OpenClaw. It'd be very interesting to see what Peter's building inside of OpenAI, though, because OpenAI acqui-hired Peter Steinberger, the creator of OpenClaw, to create something for ChatGPT. We don't know what that is yet, but presumably it's a version of OpenClaw within their ecosystem. That would be fascinating to see how it stacks up. But in the meantime, Anthropic have just been shipping, trying to basically rebuild OpenClaw, but in Cowork. And Cowork's good. It's solid. I really need to get using Cowork to help sort my screenshots and images. Yeah, Cowork's fantastic. Awesome. Righto, I'm going to finish up. Thank you so much, everybody. As mentioned, everything will be inside of the newsletter tomorrow. I have to do a... There we go. Everything's going to be in the newsletter tomorrow. It'll be tidied up. I'll give you a PDF summary of everything, and this slide deck I'll put directly in there. I'll also flesh out this prompt I used at the end. I'll give you a proper master prompt that you can use to get all of this set up. So hopefully that will be useful, and you can save it, keep it as a reference for when you do want to start to scale up your application. So make sure you're subscribed. It's totally free. It's at aiwithkyle.com, and click on join the community, and you'll be able to find information in there, a whole bunch of free courses, etc., in there as well. So go ahead and sign up if you are not, and I will see you tomorrow morning for another live. Thank you so much, everybody.